and really in those really hard, dark moments needed to get something out of me. And that's what started to become this book, and realized, it's stuff that I could have used when I was going through it. And so in the end, I just want people to feel loved and seen and know that they're not alone, and hopefully learn something about the trans experience.
When I was 5, I lived with my mother and father and older brother.
At least I could draw, I told myself.
It was just me, my cats, and my imagination.
Created protective cover, just enough where he could keep his underwear on.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of In Other Words podcast. I'm Pam, and these are my co-hosts, Karen Sketch, Val Gale, and Jan Thorpe. And our guest tonight is Nia Chiaramonte. Nia Chiaramonte is co-author of Embracing Queer Family, Learning to Live Authentically in Our Families and Communities, brings a powerful blend of professional expertise and her lived experience as a transgender woman to her writing. Nia and her wife, Katie, encourage us to embrace the queerness of our family, take ownership of our journey, and use our voice to bring light to our communities. If you are a queer person on the journey of self-awareness, an ally looking for resources, or a family member seeking advice for how to navigate a loved one's coming out process, her book is for you. As co-founders of Love in the Face, Nia and Katie extend their book's mission through mentorship, ceremonial services, and faith and workplace consulting, creating safe spaces for transgender and LGBTQIA+ individuals to thrive. Drawing from her 20-year career in human resources and her own journey of self-discovery, Nia brings unique insights into building cultures of acceptance and understanding. Through her writing and speaking, Nia continues to champion inclusive spaces where everyone can feel safe, valued, and free to be themselves. Her work reminds us that authentic living isn't just about personal freedom. It's about creating ripples of change that benefit entire communities. Nia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for that introduction.
Absolutely.
So, Nina, tell us a little bit about what projected you or catapulted you into writing. I know the last time that I talked to you, you were talking about something about doing a comedy show or something like that. That's also something that you do, and you want to do it based on maybe your family or something like that, if I'm correct.
Yeah. So I have a very interesting family. My wife and I have been together, married for 21 years this month, and been together for 26. So high school. So I came out, obviously not in high school. It's only 8 years ago. In the meantime, we had 4 children and adopted another. So we've got 5 kids, one with cerebral palsy, 2 dogs. It's a sitcom that writes itself ultimately. So I think, I'm not sure that I talked about it when we met, Val, but I grew up watching TV, and I grew up watching Full House, Family Matters, TGIF, 90s kind of family sitcoms. And I really loved them, and I love the nuance that TV gives, and the way someone moves or talks or walks, and that kind of drew me into this space of comedy writing. And I've always wanted to be a comedy writer, and so I have not gone down that path yet. But as part of my own journey, being an LGBTQ person, started to write about my experiences and have been able to infuse a little comedy in that. And so that's the books have come from experience, and my goal down the road is to have a sitcom also from experience that is more comedy based, that just mirroring the life that I live.
That is awesome. I love it.
My favorite show is Frasier. I always thought that Frasier was just brilliantly written, and I totally understand. That's wonderful. I can't imagine 5 children, a special needs child. I have a twin sister that's intellectually challenged, so I understand. I'm a guardian, and I understand that journey and how that can be as well. And then 2 animals and stuff. You're right. That would just write itself.
Yeah.
Really, tell us a little bit about I Hardly Knew Me, and where was your inspiration drawn from to write that, and what's your, audience that you're trying to reach through it, and what are you trying to do with this beautiful novel?
Yeah, the inspiration was really just necessity. When I started to come out in 2000 and really 2016, I had no place to go with emotions. Let alone I didn't know how to express them. I just wasn't something that I was used to. Having grown up in kind of an evangelical Christian environment, that was not something that you were allowed to do. And so I did not know how to do that. So through therapy, started to write, and really in those really hard, dark moments, needed to get something out of me. And that's what started to become this book. And the first chapter is really one of those first moments where I was just, my wife is crying in the other room. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to go on with life. And so there were just a lot of those moments that I wrote down. And as I kind of started to come through and come to this other place where I felt good about who I was and stable in who I was, I started to look back on some of that and realized, it's stuff that I could have used when I was going through it. And so
Yep.
I wanted to share that with other people, and in any way that I could speak to, see other people's experiences through the book, and let people know that they're also seen and not alone.
Yeah, it's great that you were able to write, because a lot of people, I think writing is so helpful for people, but there again, people feel they can't write, or would have difficulty expressing themselves that way. So you were lucky. But I wanted to ask you, let's say, in your family, what would be kind of a day in the life that would have some comedy to it?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, currently, we have all of our children are very unique, and they all have their own little idiosyncrasies. We have one child in particular that we call our little alien. And
That's
one
funny.
of the best stories, he has so many good stories, but one of the best that we had, we were on a road trip, and my wife Katie and I were talking in the front seat about how he's kind of an alien and he sees things differently. And my wife just shouts back to him, "Hey, Jay, how do you say I love you in your alien language?" And he didn't know what we were talking about. He had no context, and he just yells up, "Squawksian." And it turned into this like hour-long thing of him describing this language to us, and we're just like, oh my goodness, this is ridiculous. And that's like daily for us, those kind of fun, weird moments.
How cool.
Yeah, it is.
He info dumped on you.
Yeah,
He did. Yeah,
I love that. That's great.
well, how old are your kids?
they are 7. You're going to ask me this now. We just have some birthdays, then we have some more coming up. So 7, 12, 13, 14, and 16.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know
We
what
survived the majority of the diapers, so
Oh.
yay.
Yes, we did. That's great. But now fully entrenched in the teenage moment. So
Yeah. We always laugh because my youngest son, he was always like, oh, babies are so cute, just loves babies. But then he went to college and he was an RA for 3 years, and he's like, babies grow up to be teenagers, and I'm not sure I'm ever going to have kids at this point.
yeah, it's very different. Very different. Yeah.
Yeah. My grandson said the same thing to me. He was an actor when he was a teenager, and in a acting studio in San Francisco, where the play had a lot of little kids. So I picked him up at bar. I said, "Hey, Cameron, how did it go?" He said, "I hate those little kids." But when he was 5, he wanted to have a big family, but now he said, "I'm never having any kids."
Yeah. As they grow, it's great to have all of them, because they're always someone to fight with and always someone to friend with. So that's nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Did you encounter a lot of bullying growing up, Nina? I know, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you, Nina?
Yeah.
Is that okay to ask?
I'm my own age, 42. I'm 42. I'm also have a birthday
Oh,
coming up.
okay. A little bit of age gap. I'm 56, but I mean, I just know growing up that,
Yeah.
there was no references for anything like that,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I would spend hours in the library. I've told Jan and these guys this story, hours in the library trying to figure out who am I? What am I? Is there any point of reference
Yeah.
for this? I didn't have any context.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's part of the reason that I do what I do as well, is to give these kids, these young adults, they
Yeah.
want to know about love, friendship, families, life, careers. I mean, normal things like anybody else would, and I really feel that this book and some of the stuff that I'm trying to write and some other, LGBT people that are coming out with some fantastic work now. It saves lives.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
for me,
does.
bullying was less of an issue because I was so repressed in my own body and my
Right.
knowledge of self that as a kid in a Christian school, I kind of just disappeared into the background and didn't
Mhm.
cause any trouble.
Mhm.
I was bullied as a kid. I wasn't, because I was trans. It wasn't because I was LGBTQ. It was just because we had bullies at the school and I was an easy
Right.
target because I was just trying to stay out of people's way.
Right.
I didn't have any context either for
Mhm.
LGBTQ folks, and so the Jerry Springer show and some of these things
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
were on TV early on,
Right.
and the things that were not great examples of
Yeah,
of
exactly.
Right.
LGBTQ people, but you're like, oh, that's something that I'm relating to, so I definitely need to understand this more.
Yeah.
And definitely would have loved a real positive, some of the things that we get to see now in TV and film. But yeah, I didn't have
Yeah.
any of that, and especially in the evangelical. Grew up in a conservative evangelical church, church 3 times a week, Christian school.
Yep.
So really, just no talk of that other than it's bad, right? That's
Right.
the only
Yeah.
message I ever got was it's bad, and you should, if you are this, you should be real ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that I took on and owned wholly as I grew.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was the same in Catholic schools as well, when I was growing up in the 80s and, stuff like that, going to Catholic schools, it was the same thing. You were taught that it was bad, and that you were going to go to hell and, and all this. And, and for me, I was total opposite of you. I just bleeded everywhere. What I am, people knew, they didn't even know what the language was back then, but they knew that I was part of it, that I was something in it, so that's a really unique perspective, and thank you for sharing that. How do your children, just with you being a writer and just with everything and how you live, it's just a normal family, isn't it? Just a normal everyday family.
It is, yeah. That's actually the working title of the sitcom is Everyday People, because
Yep.
we were watching these sitcoms with the kids, these 90s sitcoms, and they were kind of like, why isn't there a family like ours on TV? And it's hard to explain like the nuances of TV and progression and all of that. But when I came out to them, the oldest were 9 and 10, youngest were 4 and 5, and we didn't even have the little one at the time. And my wife drew this lovely picture of, some people have feminine bodies, some people have masculine bodies, and some people are on this line somewhere in between. Some people have feminine souls, some people have masculine souls, and there's, everything in between. Sometimes they line up, sometimes they don't. And the kids were like, okay,
Yeah.
what
What a
are you
brilliant
saying
witness.
to us?
That's brilliant representation.
It was. I am so grateful for her thoughts and the way she was able to articulate that to them. But they basically said, we said, I am somebody whose body does not match my spirit. And they said, okay, what changes? And we said, nothing, like I might look
Mhm.
differently. I might, whatever. But they were like, are you going to treat me differently? Are you going to act differently? No,
Oh,
That's their
and
concern.
that's all
Yeah.
they want to know. Yeah. That's all
yep.
they want to know. And so it was one of those things. It was super easy. I let them call me, whatever they wanted to call me. They called me
Yep.
dad for a long time. And we finally got to a point where we were driving. We loved taking road trips, and we were in Oklahoma somewhere and in a Conoco or something. And I was going to the women's restroom as a trans woman. I'm coming out and they're screaming across the thing, dad, dad, dad. And I'm like, oh, this does not feel real safe for me.
Yeah.
And
Not the
so
Bible Belt.
yeah, we got in the car and I said, I am fine with you calling me dad. Like, that's totally fine. But maybe
Right.
we need like a public thing that you can call me so that I can stay
Safety.
safe. And yeah,
Yep.
and somebody said, how about Mamo? And all of them were like, yep, that sounds great. And they've never
Oh my
not called me that after that. So
That's great.
That's
just goes to
beautiful.
show you the boxes aren't quite so rigid
Yeah.
when they're that age.
Well, it's the social construct that has made,
Yeah.
kids are very, very malleable and very, very receiving
Well, they're
to anything
resilient.
that's loving. To
Yeah.
anything that's loving. They don't care. It's this all this other stuff.
Yeah, they just want to know, is anything
Yeah.
going to change? No.
Yeah,
Right.
because there's no rules for them. Huh.
Mhm.
Cute.
Yeah.
Right, Karen, exactly. And I did that with my son as well, Nina. A lot of people are like, "Were you going to have him call you mom?" And I'm going to have him call whatever he wants to call me. You know what I mean? And he's always called me Val, so that's fine. I'm just Val, another person that loves him. And I love that. And I met your beautiful and wonderful wife. Very, very, like you said, articulate. Very, very intelligent, and I love that representation of how she did that. That is just beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, the first book that we wrote together, Embracing Queer Family, we wanted to give people some of that stuff practically that they could use. And so we included that drawing in that book. And there's a lot of stuff like that in Embracing Queer Family that people can use and, use what they want. But that was the goal of that book, was to really be practical for families as they navigated some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a lot more common than you think. I know that we had one lady that was at the Des Moines Pride there asking that she had a child that was trans, and she was coming to that to learn how to, communicate with her child. I think that's wonderful.
That is. It's awesome.
Because like I said, we didn't have that. I was lucky. I always tell my parents, I was a latch kid, Key. So but my parents kind of tolerated me, like they were just like, I was lucky. I didn't get kicked out on the street or anything like that, and some kids do, but they kind of tolerated me. I knew they loved me, but they didn't understand it. And that's all I could ask them for at that point, But then as I got older, they loved me more. And then, of course, then that's just the way it is. But it's a beautiful thing. But so I hardly knew me. I haven't had the chance to read it just yet. I'm backed up on my reading. My list is getting high too again. So tell us a little bit. What was one of your favorite excerpts, that you wrote in this?
Yeah, I think I talked a little bit about this when I met you, Val. The chapter on the voice was really interesting to me because as somebody who grew up in this really strict evangelical environment, I would have been kicked out of the house had I come out. I would have been sent to conversion therapy, like all of those things that you hear about. And I say this confidently because my parents don't talk to me. And so, it's one of those things that I know I was self-protecting as a kid by not coming out.
Absolutely.
So finding my voice has been a really big challenge for me, metaphorically and physically. And as I transitioned, I had to think about all of these things and like really the essence of who I am and who I want to be. And the chapter about the voice kind of speaks to that because as a trans woman, a binary trans woman that I kind of identify with, there are ways of being in the world that you want to live up to, but also I want to be myself. And so the way my voice sounds is a big piece of this, right? Like, how do I be genuine with who I am and feel good about who I am at the same time? And so there were all these things I had to navigate with society of like, am I changing my voice because I want to fit in or because other people are judging me? Or is it causing me dysphoria that I need to, work through and work with a speech therapist and all of that? And that was one of those moments where I came to realize, oh, I like my voice. You don't hear your voice that often unless you're listening to yourself on something else. And I like it. And it doesn't bother me. What bothers me is the way people look when I speak in the women's restroom or wherever. And so it's really untangling all those expectations of others. And that's really the small thread of expectations that run through the whole book and how I've had to untangle those and work through shame and all of this worthlessness that kind of had piled up on me from my evangelical upbringing. So I really like that chapter and how it kind of is symbolic of the rest of it.
So, you haven't spoken with your parents. You have no relationship with them.
Yeah. So I came out in 2018 to them. I do not have a relationship with them. My dad unfortunately passed away 2 years ago now. 2 years.
And they don't know your kids, or do they?
Nope.
Are you-
They, it was one of those things where, I talk a lot in the book about boundaries too, and we all have different ways of setting boundaries. For me, at the beginning, I was asking them to call me by my name and my pronouns, and they couldn't do that. And I said, well, we want you to be able to see your grandkids, so like, can we at least meet and like have a conversation about expectations and things like that? And they said no, they were not interested in doing that.
Wow. Wow.
Now they blame me and my wife for withholding their grandkids. But in the long run, I do not want my kids to feel what I feel from them. I do not want my kids to feel the abandonment that I felt from them. And I know that that's a possibility if we're not going to have those open conversations with them. So it's unfortunate. They're missing some amazing children, and that my mom would say at this point it's my fault, and but it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Sorry for that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's too bad.
I always thought that my mother thought that it was, I got along better with my father than I did my mother. And it was like a reflection of somewhere that she failed as a parent, she thought. It was like this huge thing where she thought that like I said, they tolerated me.
That's still kind of a blame on you, Val.
Yeah, I know. Right. Thank you. And I didn't go through nearly what you went through, Nina. My parents tried to love me. You know what I'm saying? They tried. But when she would get mad at me, she would say, well, I just knew, like, I didn't do anything wrong. How did this happen? And I'm like, it's nothing to do with you. I could not get that through her head. I go, it has nothing to do with you. It's about me. And I think that's part of it, unfortunately, is them thinking that they did something wrong and they can't.
Well, that's a narcissistic reaction. It just is.
It is.
How could a child of mine, not be, what I need her to be?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Nia, when it came to writing your latest book, what was the most challenging part of that?
I think it was 8 years of writing, and I think putting it together in a cohesive way was very difficult because it was this very much of a roller coaster of emotions and different things. And then trying to figure out, okay, I wrote this kind of for me. So now thinking about an external audience, what do I want people to know? What do I want people to get out of it? To the question earlier, I think I want people to understand the trans experience, not feel alone if they are, a trans person. And I do think, especially right now in the political environment, there's no dialogue happening from these two extreme sides. And my hope is that there's somebody who's, maybe on another side of an issue. We're not issues, we're people, but, it's seen as an issue right now, who could pick up the book and feel like they could approach it in a way that they might not be able to approach a trans person in their life, or maybe they don't have any trans people in their life. So writing to multiple audiences, but I think putting that together was a little bit difficult in trying to think through what I wanted people to take from it. And in the end, I just want people to feel loved and seen and know that they're not alone, and hopefully learn something about the trans experience.
Yeah.
That's great. And if we could all just love, that's all it is. If everybody could just love everybody, and I don't understand it.
Yeah, I know.
What I don't understand is people if your experience is not the same as theirs, then they think it's wrong.
Right. Yeah. It's a fear thing. I know that.
It is.
It's a fear reaction, but it's an unfair reaction too.
And we talked about this, Nina, too, the social constructs, how it just, people cannot see past how you have to question your belief systems. You have to question everything that's out there, that's put out there that might not be right for everybody, and that's where I spend a lot of my time thinking about, language is made up. We made up that, I'm just saying trans people were very much revered, in the Native American community, very much revered. I've read numerous books about how much they were revered. And, it's just a different perspective and a different way to live. And one should not be any better than the other, but I think that we all should be able to be, allowed to live and exist without fear or prejudice, and I've talked to a young trans boy about, he got kicked out of the military for being trans. And I saw him at Pride where I was selling my books at, and he sat down and talked to me. And the poor thing was so just shaken up, only 19 years old. And I talked to him and I said, I said, when I was in, it was don't ask, don't tell. And I said, basically, they were just asking you to stay in the closet. But like me, I breathed that everybody knew. But I mean, I'm just saying.
You didn't hide it.
They all knew about me. But I told him, I said, you're really, really, I said, it's not safe for a trans person to be in the military right now. So I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
Because it's not safe.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Karen, I wanted to talk to you about the book cover. Do we have a picture of it? Like I said, Karen is our fantastic
How did you come up with that? Hold it up again. Is there?
Can you see it?
So there is a face.
Yeah, there is.
Okay, good. I just love it so much. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I actually just posted about this because everybody does love it. And my publisher works with somebody named Laura Duffy Design. I think it's Laura_Duffy_design on Instagram.
Cool.
And she was amazing to work with. I know my publisher said, when she designs books, she normally doesn't read the entire book because she doesn't have time to do that. But she did. She read all of my book. And she gave me 4 completely different covers, which he also said was kind of unusual for how she works. She uses iterations. And so we started with these 4 totally different covers. And I was able to say, wow, I really like this element of this one, this element of this one. Like, can you add those into this one that we ultimately had? And I wanted to capture like the wild messiness of gender transition, but also the vibrant color, because I described to folks who've asked, like, what is gender transition like for you? I've said it's like seeing in black and white and then all of a sudden seeing in color.
Wow, I love that.
So I wanted to kind of capture that with the vibrancy of this. So she just did such a good job of listening and taking all of that into consideration.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
There it is.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I love it.
It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So is that a painting?
I honestly do not know how she came up with it or where it came from.
It looks like, gouache or watercolor.
Yes.
You
It
know?
looks like watercolor, yeah.
Yeah, it does. No, it's great.
Oh, it does say Skittles.
It does. I just saw that. That's great.
Yeah, there's a chapter in the book about my love for candy, and I ended up trying freeze-dried Skittles after surgery. I got very addicted to them, and realized there is a metaphor in there about trans people. So it's a very sort of convoluted metaphor, but it works for my love of candy and all things sweet. So.
I talked to you about this before, the title. Oh, love the title. That is so good. Do you come up with your titles? I come up when I'm done with the book.
Yeah, so we did that on the Embracing Queer Family book. This one, going into it, I had this title idea and kind of had to I wouldn't say fight for it. My publisher was very receptive to it, but really trying to figure out the subtitle and trying to understand how the title fits in with the whole narrative. And so I did have this, and my love for sitcoms and 90s sitcoms in particular. There was a 90s sitcom called Boy Meets World, and in that sitcom there was a character that mentioned a fictional memoir that he would write called I Hardly Knew Me. And when I heard that as a kid, I thought, oh my gosh, I hardly know myself. Like I do not know who I am. And I knew deep down, I don't know who I am. And so it resonated with me in that moment. And I've kept it ever since in the back of my mind. And that's where that comes from.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes. I have a picture of your other book too, Queer Family. There it is.
Oh, that's great too.
It is.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this one is much again, it's more practical. It's kind of set into three different sections. There's the perspective of a trans individual kind of going into themselves, the coming out process, and then as a family, kind of what we went through is the same thing. We have to kind of understand who we are now as a family, as a queer member. So we're now a queer family, and how do we come out and move through the world? And then as a community, how do we embrace that? So it's kind of broken up that way, and just lots of hopefully practical things that people can use. And really, this book was for families of queer people too, because like you said earlier, the narcissist centers themselves, right, in these conversations, but most people center themselves generally. And so the people who aren't narcissists, who are saying, what does this mean for me? If given the space, can sit back and go, oh, this isn't about me. This is about this other person, and how do I deal with my own emotions? And so that's really what this book is how do we differentiate that in a family setting?
Yeah.
Would you say they're educational in a way?
Yeah, I think so, for sure.
I mean,
yeah.
People don't know they need this.
Right.
I love it so much.
Like I said earlier, I'm a librarian. We need this in every library. Both of these books in every library.
And then you got to do the sitcom. I can totally see it.
Yes.
I know. I would love to get it made. I'm done with the pilot, so now I just got to figure out how to get it made, which is like an impossibility. But I am going to keep.
You never know.
Are you planning on writing another book, or are you just going to take a break from that and work on the sitcom stuff?
I don't know. Both of these books have been pretty organic. This one, Embracing Queer Family, is what we wish we would have had when we came out, and some of the tools that we did use, we stumbled across. And the other obviously was written out of a necessity to process my emotions. And so I do have actually another book called The Story of Nib, which is a purely therapeutical processing book. So I do EMDR therapy, and through that therapy have had these moments of processing. And this was really early on in my journey. I just started writing them down every day. And at one point had somebody draw a picture of one of them. And this trans woman from Argentina drew me this picture, and I loved it. And so I had her draw all the scenes. There's like 50 different scenes. And that is just a raw emotion dump. So I'm not sure I know how to write, to be honest with you, if it's not like out of necessity.
I love that so much. I was just talking to Jan about that. Jan, weren't we talking about that? I feel like an imposter half the time.
Yeah.
I really do, and I love that you said that.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Oh,
So this
great.
is the story about finding these different pieces of myself and how that played out for me. But yeah, I don't intend to write right now, other than the sitcom. So I don't know what will happen. I get fired up about the political situation often and write little vignettes, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you're living in DC area now. How is it affecting you with this?
Yeah, it's been interesting, because coming out of Iowa, which Val knows is a different climate than Maryland. And so when we left, it was not only a unsupportive state, but we had family dynamics that were hard, and church dynamics at the time. And so Des Moines is a very big, small community, and you run into people. And so we needed to leave. And when we came out here, I didn't really realize how much the buzz of everyday life was just humming in the background of people staring at me at the grocery store or the gas station or wherever, until we're in Maryland. And I went to buy paint the first night, and I came back and I said, Katie, there were 2 trans women at Home Depot, like 2 other trans women. I don't understand what's going on. And so once that kind of died down, that background buzz of everybody looking at you all the time in our conspicuous family, I was able to put this book together. And so I realized in that moment too, that the space that's afforded by living in a state like this, is a lot. And we're close enough to DC that we go down there now. And I've not been down there in the last 2 weeks since all of this stuff happened. it's threatening to creep up this direction. I'm outside and actually closer to Baltimore. So, but yeah, it's right now in Maryland, things are good and okay and feel good for a trans person, which is nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, in November, Jan, like I said, are going to be in the DC area, and we're going to do readings and have a writers convention. Maybe you and your wife can come down.
Definitely.
And
Yeah.
we'd love to have you. And I know Carol would love to have them, Jan.
Oh, sure, she would.
Oh, she'd
Yeah.
love to have you. So I'll let you know as that gets further.
Yeah.
Yeah,
further
I
down
work
the road.
near DC too, and so yeah,
Right.
it's just a hop skip for us. But yeah, it's getting more and more iffy every day.
Yeah.
You still work in human resources?
I do. I've been in human resources for 20 years now, and I love to be able to create psychologically safe spaces for people,
Yes.
which when people don't usually think of human resources as doing that, but
no, you guys do that work. I mean,
yeah,
I think it's yeah.
I love doing it and making sure that people feel like they can do their job well and don't have to worry about a lot of the other pieces. So
yeah,
great.
That's great.
Did you study college in Iowa? Did you go to Iowa State or?
I went to Northern Iowa.
Did you?
University of Northern Iowa. Yep. I started there to be a teacher and realized I did not want to do that. And actually part of my personality growing up was like very introverted because of what I was hiding. And so I didn't want to stand in front of a class, let alone stand, up and give a presentation in college. So I dropped that major and didn't know what I was going to do. And it was about halfway through my junior year. And they were like, well, you have enough credits to be a psychology major. And I was like, I've taken a lot of psych classes because I like them. So I guess I'm going to be a psych major. And then I thought I was going to go to school for counseling and stay there and maybe do school psychology, and didn't really want to go back to school right away. So was working a summer job and looking for jobs and saw a woman in the recruiting booth. And I said, how do I do this? Like, this seems fun. Like, how do I? And she said, oh, you start as a recruiter. And so that's what I did. I started as a recruiter and definitely using the skill set of psychology along the way here. But yeah, I've just kind of worked my way through the profession and now I'm the executive director of a education company here in the DC area, nonprofit that works to create equity for community colleges.
Great.
That's great.
Very cool. Gosh.
Yes, that's wonderful. What's your take on just, I got to throw this out there. What's your take on transgender people in the military? What do you think about all that?
Oh my goodness. I just saw today that the OPM memo, there was a government memo that came out that they're not going to be giving any federal government employees transition care, gender affirming care at all.
Yeah, I read that too.
That was a couple days ago that came out, but it's absurd to me, to be honest with you. Especially the military piece is really funny because they're trying to have these two debates, one around how trans women in girls' sports is so harmful, but then a trans woman in the military can't do her job. And they just don't work together, the arguments. You're too strong over here and too weak over here. And I understand the arguments because I grew up in this environment. And, my sister, I tried to interact with her when I went back to Iowa this year, did not go well. And she said something like, well, you've lied to me for 8 years. And I'm thinking, what is she talking about? But then I realized, just being who I am is a lie to her. And so that's the viewpoint people are bringing to these conversations is you do not have the integrity. You do not have the honesty. And so you can't serve in the military, which is absolutely ludicrous. So yeah, I don't have a lot of patience for it as I grew up in the environment and I know the argument. And so I just think it's just dumb.
Yeah.
But if you've been married 3 or 4 or 5 times and,
there's all sorts of other things. Yeah. Don't worry about integrity or honesty or whatever else. Yeah.
Yeah. That all gets thrown out the window.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, when your own commander-in-chief is a draft dodger, that's the one that cracks me up.
Yeah.
I mean, who are you to sit there?
No
I mean,
kidding.
seriously, sit there and say that who can't be in, and you haven't even done it yourself. So,
Yeah.
and
There's
I
just
have to say I served around, trans women and lesbians and, gay men and stuff like that. And, like I said, don't ask, don't tell and stuff like that, and we had our own little group, that we kind of stayed in and had to fight people off a little bit. And I'm going to tell you what, that's talk about integrity and talk about, courage and passion. These are some of the most passionate soldiers that I ever encountered. Way better soldiers than I was. I'm serious. I fucked around a lot, and they were like, it's just ridiculous to say you do not know somebody's, heart like that to know what they really can or cannot do. And these are some of the best soldiers that I've ever worked around. And I've talked to straight soldiers that have said the same, heterosexual soldiers that have said the same thing. That has nothing to do with anything. It's
No,
just
my son who was in the Navy, and when he went through boot camp back in Chicago, he said it was very clear that the women did much better than the men. And he said the reason for it is they support each other.
Yeah.
They can do that. And of course, the men don't.
Mm-hmm.
They can't because it's got to look tough.
Got to be macho.
Alpha guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he said, the women were much better at it because they, supported each other. And in the evening, they could have, times together so that the next morning they'd come out all rested and the guys were all just falling apart.
I can see that. They motivated each other.
Mm-hmm.
They did.
Yeah.
You have to stick together. Everybody should stick together. And there's this whole divide thing. It's just this whole divide thing. It's ridiculous. Everybody needs to stick together.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you have any movies growing up? I love movies and music. So much inspired so much of my writing and what I like to do and nuances and feelings and metaphors and things like that. Did you have any movies growing up that really, really hit you in the core that you're like, I feel that and I want to maybe write about that or express that or anything, music or anything?
Yeah. So as a very, very, very closeted kid, as I looked for some of these like queer spaces and representatives that I could latch onto, Tu Wong Fu was a funny one that
love that movie. Yes.
And that was one that was like, this is not a completely negative portrayal of folks, and I'm kind of understanding myself more through it. And so that was one particularly. For me, a lot of the stuff, because I was so closeted, was comedy. It's how do you laugh through not knowing yourself and pain and all of that. And so all the sitcoms, you can think of, my dad was a little bit older, so I grew up on like Andy Griffith and like Gilligan's Island and, just almost everything you can think of, Mary Tyler Moore, and then into the 90s and Seinfeld and all of that. So I just love sitcoms, and it's really the thing that I probably could quote the most and really hit me the most. And it's really how do you laugh through not knowing yourself and through some of the pain that you're dealing with. Yeah.
Well, it's escapism too. Yeah. It's also escapism, and it's also finding yourself. It's really, really a very
it's both. Delicate
balance there. Some people do drugs and alcohol, gambling, everybody's struggled with stuff. And it's really, I love Stockard Channing. I've always loved Stockard Channing. So Tu Wong Fu. For me, it was Desert Hearts in the early 80s. And also The Danish Girl. Have you seen The Danish Girl?
I haven't. I actually, when I first kind of got a hold of the internet, I learned about The Danish Girl and went down that rabbit hole of understanding who she was and how all of that happened. And so I know the story intimately. I never saw the movie.
Yeah, it's a beautiful cinema. Just I love it so much. Has anybody else seen it? I don't think you guys have you?
I haven't.
Oh, yes, you have to. It's so good. But
The Danish Girl, that's what it's called.
Girl, yeah. Okay. It won a bunch of Academy Awards.
Okay.
I've always wanted to be. be a writer for maybe a movie too, or even like you said, sitcoms. I think that'd be fun to do that. And come up with language for people to connect with and understand. Because it's really about representation. I think everybody needs to be represented. And I hear a lot of people talking, like in social circles and at cafes and stuff, about why do we have to have a Black, what is it, Cinderella or something like that? Why do we have to have
Little
this?
Mermaid.
Why do we
Yeah.
have to have that? And I'll sit right down at your table. I don't even care. I'm like, you know why? Because the status quo has been the status quo for too freaking long. That's not how everybody is. That's why.
Well, also remember, Jesus was not white.
Exactly.
He was not.
Let's keep that in mind.
Right. Exactly. But that's the whole
Nor
thing.
was Mary white.
Right. Yeah. When something doesn't affect you, you don't care. And I hate that about the human condition. No empathy. There's a lot of people that don't have empathy. If it doesn't affect me, I don't care. Well,
it stinks when we stick to our little world, our little town, our little neighborhood or whatever, and don't branch out, or don't encourage our kids to branch out.
Right.
That's where all that, a lot of that fear comes from, is the difference that can be out there. And if you don't understand that on some level, everybody's just human,
Right.
They may celebrate things differently, or do whatever differently, but at the end of the day, we're all human.
Yeah.
And if we could just, I don't know, well, it's so frustrating.
That's what's so cool about the sitcom, because clearly Nia's like comfortable now you're comfortable, and now everything's funny. I mean,
it is and truly, like, I think my in-laws are probably the best example of this,
that's
especially
funny. Because they're missing out. I mean,
well, my in-laws started where my parents started, and over time have said, why are we doing this? And so, still very conservative Christian folks, but we hang out with them, and they call me by my name and use my pronouns and all of that. And the last time we were with them, I'm having this conversation, like, do you understand that who you voted for, who is in office right now, is not good for me and my family? And my father-in-law was like, no, it's not bad. And I'm like, I don't think you understand, like, the people that they're saying are bad is us. And he's like, well, you're not those people, because, like, I see your family. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, we are the bad people. We are also like everyone else. And so are almost all queer people are like everyone else. We are all people. And it was just so interesting to watch him go, like, I don't really understand this, because you are not bad, but you're telling me that I'm saying you're bad, basically. And I'm like, it's difficult.
So hard for them to grasp that, isn't it?
Yeah.
They just can't move that needle.
But he gets to see the love in our family, and the funniness and the silliness and all of that. Yeah.
Functioning family.
Yeah.
So cool.
It is.
I love it.
It's right for a sitcom.
I know. I just everything that happens every day, I'm like, oh my gosh. And you can teach so much, through all the things that happen in our house, and the the way our kids respond to, they've been bullied at school because they have two moms, or even because my son is Asian. When Trump was first in office, like, he was bullied, and there's hard things that are very beautiful in all of that, and would love to show people some of that.
Is there a lot of sibling rivalry in your family? Do they?
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, at any given time, somebody's fighting, like I said, with somebody else, and just depends on the day. But it's been interesting, because as they grow, it's like for 2 straight weeks, these two will play together and love each other so much, and then they hate each other the next month.
Oh yeah,
and so,
right.
It's always good though. They're like today, I pitted them against me and said, you know, you can come up with a reward for yourselves if you clean, you know, the house. And so they had to sit in there and negotiate among them how they were going to negotiate with me. And it was just funny to listen to. So those are the kind of things I love.
Siblings are the best because it's like, you know, they can fight and carry on, but the second anyone outside the family
Oh yeah,
tries to pick on that sibling, oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right.
It's good. And it's been so beautiful to watch my kids explain gender nonconformity and being trans to other people. I have my son who's adopted. One of my favorite stories is we had a neighbor who has an autistic son, and the day we moved in, he came over, and I'm talking to him, and the first thing he says to me is, "Why do you look like a girl but sound like a man?" And for me, I love those questions, you know, from kids, and can talk through that with them. And before I even opened my mouth to say anything, my son, who was 11 at the time, on his crutches, is like, "Well, let me tell you about transgender people." So, and he just launches into this big long thing. And I'm like, oh, that is so beautiful. That is so beautiful.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We could change the generation. We could change.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
These kids are a lot more welcoming now. That's one thing I like about the younger generation. They're so welcoming.
And when they explain stuff,
they do explain
stuff. We can't do it like they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm considered an elder in the community now, and they come and ask me questions, and I love it so much. I really, really do.
Yeah.
You know, did you study like Leslie Finnenberg and Harvey Milk and Marva Johnson and all of our trailblazers before us? Nina, did you like read?
Yeah,
those
I mean,
just
in the last 8 years since I've started to come out, have I been able to dig into those and like, you know, making gay history podcasts and some of this. I mean, there's a lot of now we can get at that. I mean, hopefully, cross your fingers, we can continue to get at that freely.
Right.
But yeah, I love reading. There's so much important stuff that has happened in the last, especially 100 years, that is just beautiful to understand. Yeah.
Well, that's what happened in Iowa, you know, when Harvey Milk was out there in California. I've talked to Jan about this many times, you know, out there, you know, doing for, you know, rights for housing and jobs and, you know, and stuff like that.
He was great. He was great.
Killed for that. And then Kim Reynolds, our governor here in Iowa, was the first state to overturn. I was like, I am ashamed to live here. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? You know? And well, you know, they're going after the blue states first. So Pam, we're safe for now. They're going
I'm in Kansas.
They are.
I'm safe for a while.
Yeah, they're coming after the blue states. That's what they're doing right now. Yeah. You know, so, but yeah, no. And then Leslie Finnenberg, I loved his, you know, he changed to survive. He had to do it to survive. Like physically, he was afraid for his life. So, you know, he transition to work in factories and live his authentic, you know, self and stuff like that. Very, very interesting stories, you know. But maybe we'll get our book banned, Nina. We'll get our books banned, and then we'll make a bunch of money.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'll read my book. Please
ban my book, right?
You really need to make those T-shirts.
Yeah.
Ban my book, please.
Yes.
So you talked, as we're starting to wind down here for time, so you talked a little bit about, okay, so in the future you're doing your comedy stuff. You don't know if you're really going to write a book. I love that, because that's how I feel half the time too. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's like I feel like I don't know what I'm doing half the time. And then I'm like, oh, well, I'll start with the concept and then I take off with it. That's what I do.
Yeah.
So what else do you see in the future, as far as like with your family, anything coming up with your wife and her career? Any plans for the fall and winter, and what would you like to see going into 2026?
Yeah, so my wife and I do something called the Dream Summit every year, and we got the idea from a book called The Dream Manager, and it was set in the workplace about how managers can inspire and cultivate their employees' dreams, and we kind of took that into the family space. And every year we come up with 100 dreams and then present them to each other and kind of see what overlaps and where that goes. And so a lot of the things that we're doing now were on our list, 4, 5, 6 years ago. And so I don't know, we do that every year. There's some recurring things that stay on there. For me, comedy is one of these things that continues to stay on that list. I've always wanted to do stand-up. I am terrified to do it. I don't know why. I've written hundreds of minutes of stand-up and just can't do it. So that's something that I am interested in. But we love speaking, her and I together and separately about our experiences and about our family. And so we've got some of that going on this fall, and hopefully can do more of that next year. And then for me in HR, I'm starting to understand how to combine comedy and HR. There's an improv group here in Washington, D.C. that does corporate stuff. And so that's something that I am thinking about more often. Like, how do I really combine this together and really, live out some of the joy and laughter that I feel in my body all the time and get to laugh with at home? And how do I expand that? And then our family, we love to travel. Our kids, we've got 2 that are going to be graduating in a couple of years. And so we're just kind of in this moment of non-transition, which is really interesting,
Right.
where our kids had so much transition and parent transition, and then we moved across the country. And so we're in this moment of stability, and it feels good, and it feels good for them. And so I think we'll stay here as long as we can.
That's great. Did you notice any change in Iowa from coming back for the show?
Yeah, I didn't. I would say there was not anything noticeable. I felt it, and I was there when that law went into effect, where they took the rights away of trans people. And so, I think for me, just the mental shift of, even when I came out in an unsupportive state, there were protections, there were rights were protected, and suddenly I was in Des Moines when there weren't. And I had to start thinking, oh, anywhere I go, somebody could abuse me, kick me out of their store. There'd be no consequence to what they're doing. And so I think I felt that internally. I don't live there like, all the trans folks like yourself that do. And so I know that you feel different, just because I did too when I was there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's a very, I will say there's a lot of allies. I do have a lot of allied friends, and I love them so much. And a lot of them, we were down at the Capitol, a ruckus down there, and it's just wonderful how people that were brought up the same age as me and older, and were brought up in this, same way, whatever that's wrong, this and this, have just changed so much and have their own belief systems, and just believe in letting people just be and breathe. Because they love people that are that way, their kids, their brother and sister, their mother, their father, stuff like that. So it really was a bonding experience. But I know what you mean. Yeah, this red state, and
it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place, and a beautiful place to live. And it's unfortunate that all this does is give people the license to be mean.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You can get away with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the same way in Kansas too, Pam?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know you lived in Oklahoma for a while. Oh,
I did.
Oh, no, there's no way.
No, I'm back in Kansas.
Dorothy's back in Kansas.
Dorothy is back in Kansas.
Dorothy Gale.
Oh, yeah. There you
Dorothy
go.
Gale. Yeah. Well, we're winding down for time
Mom
here.
and my grandma's first name is Dorothy.
Really?
Yeah.
I was going to get named Georgetta, and I said, Mom, if you would have named me Georgetta, I said, we would have had a problem. Okay. Because my dad's name is
right now.
Well, you would have been George.
I'd have been George. My dad's name was George. But Nina, thank you so much you are just amazing. And you are a light. That's part of the reason I wanted to have you on the show. When I watched you speak, I was just very, very drawn to you. You have an inner light and an inner compass that is just beautiful. You're a beacon, and keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing on my side, and we're going to get through. They can't erase all of us, know. And I love all my beautiful allied friends, educated women, lady friends. And so I will let you know about November when we go to DC. If you'd like
that'd be awesome. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
I'd love to meet up.
So Nia, before we go, can you let everyone know where can they find you if they want to find your book or find out more about you?
Yeah, best place to go is loveintheface.com. That is our website where we do mentoring of trans people and family members ceremonies, things like that you mentioned at the beginning. All of our books can be found there as well. You can reach out directly to us there. I'm on Instagram at finding_Nia. And yeah, I'm on, you can find me if you Google Nia Love in the Face, you'll get a bunch of social media that will pop up. So you can follow all that.
Terrific. Nia, we really appreciate you being here this evening. This has been an excellent conversation, and looks like there's some wonderful things in the future for you, and we can't wait to see where you go.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah.
Nice to see you again. Okay,
Yes.
bye.
Bye.